Welcome back, everyone. Going into hour number 2 here of episode 52 of Court of Swords. Some of these, when we're getting to posting VODs on YouTube, like Nebula Jazz is RollPlay Nebula Jazz, episode 21, season 2, episode 3, part 1. Like,
Jesus Christ.
the what is that? The nomenclature? Yeah, nomenclature. Yeah, I couldn't remember the word. It's just fucking ridiculous for roleplay shows. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, good thing you have so many characters for those tweets because you're gonna need them.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Well, Calumet is out making a name for himself in the city. Our turtle companion, Sally Haffa, has gone to do some research. So the people that keep like books, like the libraries and what have you, they tend to vary pretty wildly, right? Like there are notable universities in the city of Brass. Basically, the study of wizardry as a thing originated here.
Right.
In the city, wizardry was invented in the city of Brass, and so the College of Wizards is here. The various sub colleges for the schools of magic. There are also these entities known as the Magi. They're called by a bunch of different names, but these are the sort of high archons of magic. The idea that we met one of them before, right? Inanna was one of them.
Yeah.
They live in the city of Brass. So there's plenty of magic and knowledge to be found here. But it's not like there's no public library in the sense that that there would be here. So how do you gain access to knowledge, and what kind of place are you looking for?
I mean, to go along with the goal, I'm looking for something about kind of the creators and caretakers of this plane. And Turtles know about the great... God, I got to think of a name off the top of my head. But there was a great turtle once upon a time that came to the city of Brass.
Right, to learn wizardry and to bring it back.
And through his detailed notes and writings, which he brought back, that's kind of how it got to that part of the world. Under the sea, basically. And so with that in mind, I would hope that before I left, I got some sense of where and what that was. Granted, that was, years upon years upon years ago. So things have obviously changed, but wherever that knowledge was gained, I would hope would still exist in some form. And that's probably where I set off first.
Okay. All right, so you're looking to get access to this place or to a store of knowledge, based on the fact that these are people you might reveal that you're a turtle to.
Oh yeah. I definitely approach them as I'm taking the garb off of my face.
Okay. Yeah. So you're gonna show that you are a turtle, and then have them, I guess, in exchange for some things that you'll be able to do some research.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much money are you willing to spend on this? Like hiring scribes to help you? Buying access to places.
Buying access to places probably, but turtles are they work alone in their endeavors in this sense, historically, only because they don't trust other. It's kind of like an inferior race deal, but kind of not. Like, it's in the most nice way of being an inferior race. They just know that they can do it the best. See, not necessarily that other people suck.
Not like the IT guy that you call up, like, move, let me do it.
Yeah, this is like,
so it's not.
I'm seeing a theme. You played a noble before, all right, who had servants.
Look,
very
man,
defensive
it happens.
about
It happens when you're not. Yeah, when you're not open to other races being in your city. You don't have that sense. You don't respect them in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not as though it's not that you're worse than me. I'm just better than you, I guess.
Yeah, but that also comes from an intelligence point of view. Like,
yeah,
I'm smarter than you. Stop wasting my time. Like, I know exactly what I want. I'm
That's
going to get that.
It makes sense though. That would be shaped by the culture of the people. You know what I mean? Like that. Not that
Well,
he's closed-minded and not open or whatever. But
we'll phrase it this way. Other races bring emotion into everything. Turtles try to keep everything purely logic based.
Yeah. So you just see things differently in a way that helps, especially with like knowledge that helps you.
Yeah. There's nothing in my blinders basically. Like I'm dead set on whatever it is I'm wanting.
Sure.
That's a better way to say it than other races are inferior.
It sure is. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, let's have you roll. Let's have you roll an investigation check for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
20.
Nice. That's 20. Yeah, your investigation +7, right? So.
Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Okay. So you spend your time, I think, in equal parts being, well, maybe not in equal parts, but you certainly have an opportunity to move about in the libraries that are connected to the College of Magic, right? To the University of Wizardry, and I think in exchange for their right to ask you questions and study you and make notes and sort of treat you as a research subject, you have access to their libraries. So there are vast supplies of old stone tablets all the way up through modern books, and you have the ability to dig through that. So what are you looking for? Particularly like old like stories of the primordial times? Are you looking for research about anything? Like tell me particularly what you're looking for, and I'll give you some information.
Well, I think it can be kind of revealed in the sense of when they kind of like close the doors and like put me in whatever room. There's no candles or anything in the room because there's not electricity, right, in this city. In the world, there's no electricity.
There are some enchanters that are working with like binding elemental forces to create like light and heat, but certainly not at any degree where it's been spread out.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you see the turtle hand reach into a bag and he grabs a candle, and he puts it on his back and sticks the candle on one of his dulled spikes, and gets a second candle and puts it on the other side of his dull spike, kind of right behind his head. Has some murmurings to himself, and you just see the two candles kind of like light by themselves. And then he leans forward and starts to take the garb off of his chest, and on his back, on the shell, probably about the bottom half, about 60 or 50% of it, is kind of this weird fractal design that's basically supposed to be kind of like the universe and how he perceives it to be in his studies so far. Kind of just a fractal kind of just spinning. And there's different Aquan characters on it, which is the race of the turtles, kind of depicting what those are. And so it kind of zooms in on that, and then he starts looking for information that can kind of add to that design, as it were.
Okay, so you're looking for sort of mythology surrounding the origins of the world and how that was going to be. So it's hard to study a thing that's so old,
abstract,
right? If you could just go back in time, that would be a thing. So I think from what your research turns up, the only way to really get true information here, because you spend all this time digging through books and scrolls and finding not answers but contradictions, right? That one story from a desert wandering tribe from the Court of Wands tells that the world was the hiccup of the first child, right? And that in its exhalation it created the world to live in, and then there's another story, from the dwarves that say that the world is the world is a coal being lit by the ember of the sun. And so there's all of these different they've been lost to mythology, and so it's hard to pick out anything that
Sure.
Speaks true. And I think what it all points to, what all of your research ends up kind of aiming you at, is that the only sort of firsthand experiences you're going to get are going to come from creatures who either were around or who have access to a more direct memory of elder times.
Sure.
And from your research, I think that you learned that because the city of Brass is so magically inclined, and because it's so vibrant a place in magic, there's also a lot of supposedly hidden or time-based magical doorways from the city. So the city, you can get to other places from here. They say that there are, alleyways that lead to cities in the Court of Swords. You hear that there's supposed to be a door in one of the sub catacombs of the city that opens up into a hallway in heaven, right? Because heaven is it's a physical place that
right.
you can. When Hazan was like, I'm going to heaven, he didn't mean like metaphorically. He meant literally, I'm going to use magic or whatever to travel to another place. And so the city of Brass, because of its magical nature and because it's built on top of these things, you can get anywhere from here, both metaphorically and supposedly literally, if you know the way. And if you were able to find a door that led you to the domain of a god or powerful spirit, they might be able to be inclined to answer some questions that you have. It may be time to move from research to interview.
Is there, being that research is kind of the life of Sully Hoffa, is there, being that he's been in so many libraries, he probably writes down every story, myth or not, in great detail. Being that he's done this so often, are there any that he's seeing multiple times, or maybe seeing some parallels from, one race's backstory to another race's backstory that would have a little bit more truth to them?
Yeah. So the one thing that is true through all of the sort of creation myths and stories is that at some point there is a division between the gods of old and the bureaucracy of heaven, right? At some point, sometimes it's a civil war, and then some of the gods go up to heaven and create this divine palace. In others, it's an evolution. It's that the gods learn a powerful lesson and leave the earth to the terrestrial races. So at some point, all of the most powerful of the gods they ascend to heaven. So they went to this other place, and that's true across the board.
Okay.
Right? That there was a time when these things changed.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I take super detailed notes of all that, going down to even if a word is misspelled or something like that, I keep the original writing. I don't fix that. And then try to draw parallels between everything.
Okay. Yeah, and so all that you learn, I think the thing that you learn that sort of is maybe the most immediate is there may be a way for you to go to heaven from the city of Brass and speak with the gods. You would have to find it and figure out how to do that thing, but
sure,
it's something that you didn't know before about the city, that it sort of sits at a cosmic waypoint for these things.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So while our new turtle friend is doing research and Kalimat is making a name for himself in the city, Berg, buddy, what have you been up to?
Berg is practicing his dancing. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure. I mean, dance is a powerful way to,
How much time has passed since...
yeah, I think that's an important question to know exactly how much time.
I mean, maybe none.
Yes, that's up to me.
Maybe it's brief. It's up to you. If you want to, because Dan's not here, you could just be like, yeah, me and Ramus were like, I've had enough of you right now. I just need a break. Go stay at another hotel. I'm going to do my own thing for a while. Or it might just be a couple of days. Right?
I think it's probably more likely, that's kind of where I was leaning before, that me and Ramus were specifically Berg is more, I don't know what to do with my time. Everything's been going so much from this thing to the next thing to the next thing. There's always a next thing for Berg.
Mm-hmm.
That has just been, because his life has just been so chaotic and flowing into the next thing. It's all blurring together. So this has been the first time that Berg has had any time to just chill.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really know what to do.
Your relationship with Ramus has been tense.
Yeah.
Across the board, regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a hard dude to be around.
Yeah. And I think Berg's response to that would be a lot of confusion and kind of just probably getting a little bit on Ramus's nerves as well as, you know, the reverse, right? The fact that Ramus gets so upset at him, you know, like in this way is kind of just like, you know, it's a different dynamic in their relationship, right? They don't really hang out. They care about each other in terms of just they've been through so much together, but they're not like best buds who go out to like, you know, that's not their kind of relationship. It's more been about survival and combativeness and lofty goals that, you know, and like, so this has been like a weird spell of normalcy that Berg's not used to. And so he's just been kind of wandering, you know, the Brass City, because Ramus has made it clear that, you know, like go out, go do something kind of thing. So that's what he's been doing. And he'll spend a couple days maybe away from Ramus too. Like he'll stay in different inns and things like that. And I want to say maybe over the course of, we're talking now, like a couple weeks or so, he's also, you know, talked to different shop people and like brief encounters and stuff. But he's starting to hear murmurs that like he's being looked for, but not by the people, not because of he's a slave. He's not sure why he's being looked for. He has this sense about himself that people are looking for him, but he doesn't know exactly why, and he can't confirm it. You know, like his instincts are kicking in, and he knows something's coming. Whether it's good or bad, he doesn't know. So I think he's just trying to stay mobile as kind of an instinctual response. And
so Sully and Kalimat, you came here at least in part to find Berg.
We didn't know his name, but yeah.
Yeah, why is that? Like what do you how do you know what you found? What information do you have about him?
There was a slave trader that caught was trying to find Berg, basically.
Oh shit! I know who's looking for Berg.
And in doing so, let it slip that
oh, that's good.
he might be in cahoots, basically, with someone that is either of this world or basically kind of like with angels, and that was a blip on the radar to me specifically, who kind of has feelers out everywhere. So as soon as that kind of went off, I was interested in the orc who traveled with angels and kind of his story. Not necessarily from a money point of view, but from why the fuck are a bunch of angels walking around with an orc? That type of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the specifics of like, you know, who he journeyed with or anything. I just know there's an orc, there are angels involved. Seems important to this slave trader guy for some reason.
So the man who told you about this half orc that he's looking for, I think then you would have an out of date like drawing of him, right? You'd have a like essentially a wanted poster of Berg from some time ago, and this man is a grizzled, like he's not aged well. Things have not gone well for Kukrit in the last like 10 years. And he's been traveling, and he came across you at the two of you at a crossroads town, and was like, if you find this half orc, you know, there's a great bounty on his head. Bring him to me.
Yeah.
He owes me. He's an escaped slave. He owes me a great deal of money. You'll know him by the bracer on his wrist, by his broken tusk. Yeah, cool. Okay.
And I think the part of that was intriguing, to me at least, was the fact that, you know, he was traveling with people not of his kind, and didn't understand that. And then as I started to just learn more about him, there were stories about Berg that were just out of this world. Like he would disappear one place and appear another place within days of each other, which makes absolute no sense. And that was intriguing. But I think maybe for Kali, he just saw dollar signs in his eyes. And over time, I've tried to like wear that down and be like, we're not capturing this person.
Yeah, is that the case? Like Kalimat, like you know that Sully is looking for this half orc, this escaped slave. Mm-hmm. Do you know that there's more to it than that, or are you like, yeah, we'll catch this guy and turn him in for money?
I don't think so. I think it's Kalimat approaches everything as it comes. He doesn't have any preconceived plans. So I think if this escaped orc is bad news, or is a bad person or whatever like that, then absolutely I'll turn him in for the cash. But I'll wait and see what unfolds after meeting him.
Okay.
And maybe because maybe I can use him to my advantage to be like Braun, where I don't have much. He will, and I can befriend him, and he'll be my bruiser or whatever.
Well, I imagine too that as a dragonborn of the air, freedom is a thing that is important to you, right? That like
Absolutely.
the idea of slavery is probably pretty antithetical to your people don't keep slaves, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Okay. So you're curious about the situation. There might be something, but if he is a bad guy, then there is some money to be made. But okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's an extent to that. Like if people, prisons are necessary for bad people.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
A question for Max: was there a time, kind of in your life as Berg, that it ever slipped to someone who could take interest of the fact that you let slip like agent of tower? Most people like no one's an agent of tower. It's kind of whatever, blah, blah, blah. But someone that would take that to heart, that would then kind of like pass that along as the story of Berg.
Yeah, like Berg, what's your, because we haven't seen you for like there's a decade of missing time, right? That you know what's going on, but we haven't seen on screen. But what would be a few things that would be left behind in your wake? Because you weren't in the city of Brass the whole time. You were moving around the world by way of sometimes of these magical gates, right?
Yeah, whatever those myths are is kind of what I know.
Yeah. I think probably earlier on in Berg's, like, we're going to call it a career and as an agent of the tower, when his training wasn't fully, not that they, as a servant of the tower, you're never like, you're always learning, right?
Right.
But let's say in the beginning part where Hassan was really trying to like kind of gain his favor and kind of, we'll say, warp his mind a little bit in the right way for the tower. Berg might have let slip, just completely unknowingly, like that he mentions the tower and like what he does. He was trying to be vague, but Berg is sometimes very thick, thick-headed.
I like the idea of this rumor of, and much like chasing the creation myths of the various people, this myth of the escaped slave half-orc who now serves the tower and wants to kill all dwarves everywhere for ever daring enslave his people. Or like there's a rumor that he's the orcish messiah come to like free all the orcs. Like you're Moses to the orcs. Maybe you talk to some orcish like slaves at one point, Sally, that tell you like, yes, we await his coming. And so there's like a little bit of that going on.
Oh,
but everywhere,
Persnitatron totally told the story of Berg in the most grandiose way as well. So that's also out there in some form.
Yeah. He's as tall as a tower itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so there's this idea, but also depending on who you ask, like humans and anyone who owns slaves and dwarves are like, he's the destroyer. He's a terrible monster. He serves the tower, which everyone knows to fear. He will bring only ruin in his path. Like best to kill him and be done with it.
And I think as a recent example of that, it would be the House of the Falcon and things of that, like the fact that it's, that kind of everything just fucking went to shit. Like everything burned. Like,
so there's a connection. There's a connection between a recent, and this is something that maybe the group of you have just learned. There's a connection between this recent spate of fires. There was a noble estate in one of the nicer neighborhoods that was burned to the ground. And the neighborhood is like haunted. People have been avoiding it. Businesses have shut down. People have been getting sick. The neighborhood is supposed to be haunted or cursed or something. And so they're just like, people have been avoiding it. And you were led here by, some rumor that someone saw this one-tusked, scarred orc traveling this area. And so you're honing in on this particular rumor. But I think this night, this is not a night for investigation. This is not a night of stealth and skullduggery. I think that there is some kind of like midsummer celebration, some kind of festival that is going on throughout the city of Brass. It's probably in, let me look at the arcana. It's probably in service to one of the major arcana. Maybe like a summer one. I'm tempted to go with the sun, but I think maybe instead it's I think it's a festival. Oh yeah, totally. So it's like a festival, like a Day of the Dead kind of thing, where everybody is wearing like skull masks and dressing up in like skeleton costumes. It's a night of like forgiving debts. It is an opportunity to like let go of the burdens of the year as the world gets hotter and hotter. No one wants to carry their burdens through this terrible heat. So this is a celebration of death and the idea that we will find new hope in the months to come as the summer arrives. And so people are out there like, wearing masks, getting drunk, and giving up on their heavy weights throughout the year. And so I think that we come in on one of these scenes, and Zeke, I'm gonna let you set the scene for me here. Tell me about the venue at which you are performing this evening and the kind of crowd that's there. Let me give us an idea of where you would be on this special night.
Okay. I think since it's a festival, it's kind of like a street party that we would have in a smaller town or something like that, where the bars and taverns like open their doors. People can go in, but the wares are outside. Like they've set up bars outside where they're serving drinks and stuff like that. Everything's out, like, and they close down the streets to carts and horses and stuff like that. Everybody's in the street and they're dancing and I have found a place in front of one of these taverns that I have noticed some people that might be gathering around having a good time, and I kind of sit and watch and pick my audience out. I find one, I get up on a chair, and I address them, sing them a few songs, and then as I'm standing on the chair, as I'm finishing the last verse of one of the songs, about it's a merry tune about drinking and having a good time and swiving and and living a good life. And then I notice Berg's character.
Yes, you see Berg in the crowd. So Berg, what are you doing? The whole district has taken up this celebration. I think that we see you in the crowd, and maybe you have to move to avoid. There's someone wearing like a suit of black armor with a skull mask, like this, like riding this pony through the streets, and carrying a big black flag, and people are cheering and like throwing flowers at the feet of the pony as this person rides by, and you have to kind of like start, and we see it move by, and then we get a clear shot of you. What are you doing?
I think as that happens, it kind of, Berg has a drink in his hand and he kind of spills his drink a little bit, like his ale or whatever that he has, as he's kind of walking around, because Berg's kind of he's like, you know what, Berg's trying to actually have a good time, you know what I mean? Like he's actually like trying to fit in with society a little bit, even if it's just to himself. He's trying to like kid himself in his own way that he can be normal. He is wearing the mask, but the mask isn't as we saw it before, like, from way back when he first got it. It's weathered. It's not as vibrant anymore. It's got some scratches and stuff on it. He's wearing it because he figures, all right, well, this is what I wear normally anyways if I'm going to go out, and people are wearing masks and it's merry and all that, so it makes sense. It's a good time for Berg to blend in with everybody else. And I think as that happens and Berg spills his drink, he just like looks at the drink and he's like, fumbling a little bit, and then like wants to take a drink, but then realizes the mask is on.
So Berg's mask is this ornate celestial dog mask. It's meant to represent or look like the guard dogs of heaven, and it's quite frightening. It's a mask, which means that it's acceptable for you to go around masked tonight, but it's not the traditional. Like everybody else is wearing like skull paint on their face or like skull masks. And so that's your
and so that's I think this is when he kind of looks around a sec and then takes off his mask just a little bit. You know what I mean? To take the ale. Yeah, pulls up the mask, and maybe that's when he sees Berg.
And then and then I see you, and my song ends, and then you hear something maybe from your past. It's a slave song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts singing in this deep, like baritone. It's a rhythmic song for working. Mm-hmm. And it goes, Mubu Atigadrat Nentuko Mubuk Atigadrat Nentuko. And like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, so I think that people in the crowd,
And that's Orcus, by the way.
yes, yeah. So people in the crowd, I think there's this moment where everyone kind of looks away, or like the tone of the song is so against the like celebratory
Yeah, the
nature
spirit
of the party,
everything.
that it just you just cut right through the crowd, and everyone, either from discontent or whatever, they like turn away to have conversations or whatever. But Berg, you and this figure and Kalimat see each other clear across. I mean, obviously,
No, at that moment, Berg
take inspiration, obviously.
Yeah,
And
Berg
then
went-
you like lock eyes between the across the crowd.
Yeah, Berg immediately like went from like kind of like taking his drink to like if we were to see it cinematically, like you said, like the crowd noise would fade away. We would even maybe go slightly grayscale if and blurry a little bit, and Berg's eyes and focus go straight on him, and he's just, for some reason, you've jolted him way back. He knows this song, like he's heard it. It's been a long time since he's heard it, and it is just conjuring up images that he did not expect to be feeling right then in that moment. So he's just paying very close attention to you and who you are.
So let's. I mean, here's the
And if
thing. I'd like to see how you react to this, Berg. So, I mean, this is a song of suffering. This is a song of like.
Yeah, if
of
you want to
woe.
know what the words actually mean, it's above all there is light, below only time.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's and so you feel this. It's a song of suffering, a song of like reminding that you're here to toil on earth, and that there may be a heaven for you to go to somewhere, but now you live on earth and things are bad. And you're a barbarian, right? You're a berserker, right? Your response to these things tends to be rage. But I'm curious to see what do you do?
I think what happens, actually, I know exactly what happens. He's paying attention to the words, and he doesn't realize that his grip on his mug is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And you start to see like a little crack in the side of it, and maybe a zoom in on that. You see a crack on the other side of it. And before he realizes, and when this kind of snaps him out of what's happening, he smashes the mug in his hand and just kind of looks at it and makes a loud crack, and as it falls, and no one else maybe would really notice because there's a lot of noise going on, but it's quite forceful, and there is a loud noise. So anybody that's paying attention to who this person is might, for a moment look at him and just be like, geez.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
God.
you splash some of the drink, the like honey mead that's in your cup, as you crush the clay vessel in your hand. You splash some of it on a nearby. There's a halfling. There's like 4 or 5 of them because halflings never travel alone. And you splash on this halfling, and he pulls up his like skull mask, and he's got these big bushy sideburns, and he looks up at you, and he's like, "You got mead all over me," and he scowls, and then one of his friends like hits him like, "It's not worth it, like don't," and he looks up at you, and do you even notice him?
I think Berg's head slightly goes like this, like that, not getting rid of his gaze. He's still looking at this person, but he like goes like that slightly. But that's the only like paying attention unless this person like tugs at Berg's tunic or something like that, or whatever clothes and armor he's wearing. He's just gonna keep staring forward at this person.
Okay.
And then I think I would take this opportunity, because I'm lithe and I can slip through crowds of people pretty well. I would take this opportunity while this like fucking just like death staring these halflings in the face. This broken tusk fucking orc is just staring these guys in the face. I would take this opportunity to sidle up to them, like just and talk to the halflings and say, I see my friend has spilled his drink. I hope that the situation can repair itself amicably. And I take out 3 gold pieces. Here,
And you hand to him.
drink all night.
Yeah, and he looks at the coins, and one of the halflings like whispers something to him in the weird like pigeon language that they speak, and he looks at you and pockets them, and he says, he's like, "There's no trouble, it's fine," and he looks up at Berg and he says, I don't know whether to suggest you drink more or less." He shrugs. And he pulls his mask back on, and the group of them kind of get like they disappear off into the crowd to go get more drinks. So Berg, you have a this singing stranger near you. And while this is happening, Sully, where are you?
Celebrations of the dead is the most pointless thing Sally has ever heard of.
So the celebration. It's a very human thing. This particular. It's one of the Arcana like rituals, and it's less about celebrating the dead and more celebrating death as change, right? Death as giving up on the things that need to be given up on. And moving on, but it's still a predominantly human festival.
Totally, I think the way that Solly would approach it is, Kali probably every once in a while really goads me to get out and just experience things, and this was one of those nights. And so the only way that he could convince me to come out and take part in this festival is turtles don't like mourn death. We mourn the questions that the person that died didn't answer because they died. And then we celebrate the questions they did answer in their life. So I have pieces of paper that I have written, maybe the things that my parents discovered or found out in their lifetime.
Well, and part of your discoveries are written into your shell, right?
Right, totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, on these pieces of paper are the different things that my parents discovered, and to somehow have a parallel to this whole festival, I'm kind of like tossing those out in the wind and then catching them on fire and kind of like sending them out. So that's my way of joining into this celebration.
Cool. Okay. And you're sitting like aside, right, by yourself somewhere?
Yeah. I'm probably out on a building somewhere. Definitely an earshot of what Kali is.
Oh, I love the idea that we get this pan across the crowd, and there's lots of people like carrying torches and wearing the skull masks and cheering and drinking and singing, and then we pan slowly up, and sitting on the roof of one of these low buildings, just like kind of kicking your feet, lighting these bits of paper on fire and letting them drift away in the hot summer wind. We see you. Cool. Oh, that's so good. That's such a nice shot. And the sun is setting in the distance, and you can see the desert and the wavering heat. And the city is sort of like just really just getting started for this all night celebration. So meanwhile, down in the crowd, Berg, the singer, has approached you through the crowd. And imagine that there are people moving around you all the time, and that occasionally in the middle of the conversation, right, someone will squeeze between you to get by. You're definitely right in the midst of this crowd. So what do you do?
Berg's kind of standing unmoving. He hasn't really motioned one way or another or responded too much. He's still just staring straight at Kalimat, kind of like perplexed. Like he's coming out of his like kind of, we'll call it a daze. And he looks at him and he just says, "Nice voice."
Thank you, my friend. I would like to extend a greeting. My name is Kalimat.
Where did you learn that song?
Therein lies a tale. I'm a traveler of sorts, and I meet all kinds of different people. I met another one of your kind, who also found himself in bondage for 25 years. I'm a collector of songs, and he taught me that song not long after a slave rebellion where they killed all of their masters and became free. So to him...
At that moment when you're saying that, just not to cut you off completely, but at that moment, Berg's eyes go wide, very wide.
Yeah, and we can see them under the, because you have your mask on, right? So we see Berg's eyes, go wide under the mask.
Yeah, continue though.
So to him, it was no longer a song of servitude. To him, it was a memory
of victory over the oppressors. If I have done anything to offend you, then please accept my humblest apologies, and I will cease to sing the song forevermore.
You
But-
get a sense from
yeah.
Berg's voice here that it's warble. If you could detect his voice being weak, it's slightly off. It's a little weak. So
Okay.
as you say that, he's like
No, of course not.
like that, like he's hiding something. Like
Good.
Well, why
to
don't
hear
you?
the song again?
I mean, Kalima, why don't you make an insight check to see if you can sort of pierce that gruff exterior, if you can figure out what's going on in this barbarian's. Now, I think you can't see his face. He's got a mask on. You don't know him very well. I'll give you disadvantage on this. And roll and see if you. It may take some more time to unfold the secrets here, but just at a glance, let's see how you do.
I'm sorry. What was the one?
Insight.
Insight. Okay. Oh, not perception.
No, insight is getting
know,
like
I mean-
emotional insights. Perception is just noticing details.
Oh fuck! Oh,
This fucking guy, like, you have disadvantage, so it's like, oh, that's a shame you don't get that 21, but you still get an 18.
Oh, that's right. You said disadvantage. I still get the 18 though. That's nice.
Like, wow, that's so good. Okay, so yeah, I mean, Berg, like, tell us more, Max. So
Yeah.
Initially there's the wide eyes, and then you hide something and you say no, of course not. But give us some subtext. What does Kalimat pick up on underneath that layer of you're trying to hide?
Yeah, I think he continues on, and this is Berg's way of being clever, but he's not hiding it very well. But he goes on and says,
My people have endured many brutality.
he like kind of stumbles, you know what I mean, a little bit over trying to search for the right word. It's like,
Good to hear one has made it. Something good.
I can tell, my friend, that you have lived under much suffering. It is in your eyes. And if time has taught me anything, it has taught me that shared pain is always decreased, but shared joy is always increased. So I will share my joy with you if you share your pain with me. Tonight, we forget our past and drink to the now and drink to the future.
You might want to be careful with what you ask. My shared pain destroys lives.
And so when Berg says that,
Jesus
when
Christ,
Berg-
that fucking voice gives me chills. It's
when
so good.
Berg says that, there's some kids that are up on one of the other roofs, not the same ones Sally is on, but across you can see it. We hear the sudden howl of like fireworks, right? So there's this loud whistle and then a bang, and when the bang goes off, there's a bright light, and for a second, one of the chimneys of the building is cast a harsh shadow down into the street and across Berg's face as he says that. So there's this like whistle, a banging sound, and then a long shadow kind of falls over Berg as he says that, just for a moment.
Just the accent is fucking shit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it does anything to sway your opinion, but I've traveled far, very far in my life, and I've heard stories of pain. I have large ears, so to speak, to listen. May I have the pleasure of your name?
this is kind of puzzling. Like this kind of stops Berg for a second. You see him be still for a moment. And he's clearly contemplating whether or not to actually share
Berg,
his real name.
Yeah, so Berg, you take a moment and you're like, and you think about it and you look around, and nearby there are a group of there's a group of young like acolytes, young monks, and they're just kind of like hanging out in the street playing grab ass and goofing off. And you see one of them kind of like fall behind, like gets knocked down, and the others like laugh and run. They're not bullying them, but it's just like they're wrestling, and one of them falls down. And she looks up at you, and she's wearing familiar-looking blue like monk's robes. And she looks up at you for just a second, and then her friend shout at her, and she jumps up and runs out after them.
I think Berg he responds back and he says,
Careful again. The more you know could hurt you.
Well, that's just fine then. I shall then refer to you as my friend. Would that suffice?
Very well.
Very well. It is decided, my friend. Let us drink. You do drink. I saw a cup in your hand, did I not?
Right, and Berg's hand still has little bits of
Yeah, I know.
clay like in it.
I know. I saw the whole thing. I'm just trying to get him to talk.
I think Berg looks down at the ground, and looks at the, spilled ale, spilled meat, honey meat, or whatever.
There's like a feral, like a street dog, has like wandered up and is just like lapping up the mead that you spilled on the ground. So you look down, it's mangy
Berg
dog.
kneels down real quick and like pats the dog, and says like,
So when you do, can you make a charisma save for me, Berg?
"Sure."
I'm just curious how this dog is going to respond. It's like 50-50, so. Okay, so the dog makes like a slight kind of nervous whine at first, and then realizes you're not gonna hurt it, and then just continues like lapping at the mead, and you like scratch it behind the neck. Yeah.
Yeah. After he does that, and while laughing, he's like,
I'm afraid I need another glass.
Well, instead of another, how about two?
I like you.
Well, then we are of a mind, my friend.
And then I yelled to anyone who's listening, three pints of whatever swill you have.
Right, and I think that there's each of the taverns has like people that come outside, and there's a young dwarven man who has a big like keg strapped to his back, and there's some kind of like tube contraption underneath, and then a bandolier of these clay cups. And and he comes over and he's got his beard is all like plaited, and he's just wearing like a plain apron, no shirt, and he has tattoos all down one arm in a faded blue. And he walks over and he knows you. You don't know him, but he says all the singing is hard and thirsty work, Master Kalamat. Here, and he takes a cup and hands it to you. And then he looks at Berg and says, "And how kind of you! A drink for your servant." And pours another cup.
That Berg immediately raises an eyebrow to that and looks to his new friend and says,
Master, now is it?
Before, like, as he's talking, I trying to picture this in my head. I took my cup, right?
Yeah.
And then I take the servant by the back, and I say something. Let's see. I say, or just by the back, just like right here, and I grab him like this, and I say,
the only person or the only thing that this man serves tonight is drink. Do well to remember that, and I will see that you are compensated. In fact, you yourself seem a bit thirsty. Maybe I can quench that.
and I just pour it on his head.
Awesome. Okay. So, are you? I mean, it sounds like you're intimidating this guy.
Yeah, sure.
And Berg, are you participating, or are you just watching this happen?
Berg is watching him very closely just to see what his intent is here.
Right. So this
Who
this
he
guy.
is. The
this
moment
guy
he heard
assumes-
master, he's like, "What sort of master?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you pour the drink on his head. Let's have you make an intimidation roll.
Okay. 16.
Okay. All right. So you pour it on his head, and he like blinks the mead out of his eyes, and like rubs his face, and he's like, and a sense of humor too, as well, my master. And like wrings his beard out. He says, I hadn't planned on taking a bath tonight, but a bath in mead's as good as I'll get. And he like kind of looks up at you, and he says, "'Tis a night for letting things go. Otherwise, I'd have you." And he like gives you kind of the like fist
And I laugh.
Yeah, and
Of course.
he says,
And I stop in the middle of my laugh.
But remember what I said.
and he nods and says, "Of course, Master Kalimad. I just, well, where I'm from," and he looks at Berg and then realizes, nah, it's not worth it. Yeah, and he lets it go, and he says, he hands you a drink, Berg, and says, I hope that whatever burdens you carry, that this mead will lubricate their exit. And he does a little bow, and his just soggy beard touches the ground, and
as he's walking away, and don't forget, I seem to have spilled my drink. I could use another.
Right, yeah, and he turns around, he's like, "Of course, sir," and like hands you another before he's called away by his someone else. So up on the roof, Sally, you've noticed that like there are kids running around on these rooftops, like urchin kids, running around screaming and shouting, and like guaranteed somebody's gonna fall off a roof at some point, like lighting off fireworks. And a group of them are close enough that they have noticed you and are currently standing just outside of hearing range, and they seem to be daring each other to like run up and like poke you. They're like, "Who's that? I dare you to go up and talk to it. No, I dare you to do it." And so they're like whispering. These little kids are whispering amongst each other, and you've definitely got their attention.
I just stare at them. I just wait to see what will happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going
right.
to make any actions or tell them not to.
All right. So you just kind of sit there.
Yeah, I'm just slumped over, more concerned about making sure the paper was fully burned so that got out.
So one of them finally realizes like they become the person that gets pushed out of the group. And at this distance, it's hard to tell much about them. They're all like lanky, like almost teenagers, like almost grown-ups. And one of them, you can see them kind of like puff up their chest and try to sneak up behind you. So they're like sneaking up really slowly, and you can see them coming, no problem. Like you're aware, but they're like skulking up behind you. You don't know what they're gonna do, but they're slowly sneaking towards you. What are you gonna do?
I just act normal. They're
Okay.
very, very low emotion. I'm just hunched over, staring out,
Okay.
even if I
So
notice
continue
the
to
person.
sneak up behind you, getting closer and closer. The others whispering nervously. They've gone from like, "You're not brave enough to do it," and then this one kid runs off, and now they're like, "Oh God, it's gonna eat him!" Like, "Oh Jesus!" Like they're all afraid now. As this person they sneak up, and we see them reach out with a grubby hand, like reach out and then like go to tap you on the back, like tap your shell. Do you do anything, or do you let them touch you?
No, as long as it's not going to harm me. I mean, I understand it's a kid.
Yeah.
So I
So
let them touch me.
Yeah. So they tap on your shell, realize that it's a shell, right? There's this hard like
Yeah, it's more
surface.
of a yeah.
There's a yelp of surprise. They thought you were like a hunchback or something.
Right.
And so they're like, "Ah!" And then the kid turns to run and then slips on some gravel on the roof and falls. Not falls off the roof, but like tumbles to the ground. And you hear the scraping on the ground. Do you turn around? Do you pay attention or do anything?
Yeah, I think I was still sitting on the edge of the roof, so I'd very slowly lumber up, put one leg there and the next leg there, and turn around very slow to see this. You said it's a human kid?
Yeah, so human child.
Yeah.
The kids have done that thing where the kid got caught. Some of them have scattered to hide. Others have just run off. They're just like, nope, fuck this, I'm out, and they've run home. But there's a group of about a half dozen of them still kind of scattered on the other roof. But this one's right in front of you. You would guess. I mean, how good are you at figuring out things about humans? Like, would you be able to guess age? Do you think?
I think age is like it doesn't mean much to in turtle society. So no, like it's just a smaller human.
Yeah. Okay. So this small human of some indeterminate age, turns over on their back. They're wearing garb that they're all dressed the same. So it might be something they were given from like an orphanage or something, like just kind of like not quite rags, but like poor quality clothes.
Yeah.
No shoes, kind of grubby looking, but they've smeared soot, like chimney soot on their face in the shape of a skull. So it kind of comes down on their jaw and you can see, and they have these big brown eyes that are currently looking up at you in terror.
Yeah. So I kind of slowly just.
Do you reveal your face, or are you just like a big hulking hunchback with a cloak?
Just a big hulking hunchback. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
just kind of going from.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
going from person to person. And look down at the kid. I'll probably remove the part around my mouth, and look at him very intently and say, "Yes."
And they just like babble. They're just like, they told me, they dared me to come in. I'm sorry, please don't hurt me. And like they're kind of like backing away, and their little feet are kind of scrabbling in the rocks on the roof.
Again, I'm assessing the situation and kind of just slowly staring back at all of them. Okay. And I kind of just start like walking towards the entrance on the roof.
Yeah, when you start to walk,
Or exit rather.
yeah, when you start to move again, one of the kids throws a rock at you, and you feel it like bounce off your shell, but you hear the like clack as it hits your shell.
I think how fast that's.
And one of the kids shouts like, "Get away from her!"
What's the scariest?
It's a brave one.
I'm trying to think what the scariest thing to a human would be.
The cold.
I think we roll initiative.
I'll cast minor illusion. There's no verbal component to it, so it's somatic and motion, I think is the M. And since I'm from the school of illusion, it can have both a sound and a sight component to it. So I just make like, I guess I just put a just a vile dog behind me that's just barking loudly to have their attention go to that, and I just keep walking. Like I kind of cast it with my back turned to them.
Okay, so something subtle and potentially real, rather than like you see a terrible monster like
Right.
spring up out of the shadows.
It's
Okay.
to get their attention away from me, not so much scare them.
Okay. Yeah. So this big mangy rabid dog appears, which is the thing they know to be afraid of, rather than a thing that they don't know to be afraid of, which is say you. And the kid, the girl that was on the ground, she jumps up and runs back to her friends, and they all run off, shouting like about this rabid dog. And they'll remember later, the story of the strange old hunchback and his weird dog. And one of them will be like, it wasn't a hunchback, it was some kind of creature. I felt its shell, but no one will believe her.
Right.
And so they scatter, they run off.
Yep.
And I think that you're on top of the like hotel or inn or whatever that Kalimat, like the two of you are staying in this place, and maybe maybe Kalimat, this is you and Berg, go inside with your drinks, and Sully, you head inside from upstairs.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. We'll take our second break. Still 2 hours left to go here on Court of Swords. What are we calling this? An arc? We got to figure out.
I've been trying to figure that out too. I think it's just a continuation of the Court of Swords.
Okay.
I think it's just we're
We'll
back to the main jam.
Court of Swords 1.02 15.
Don't hurt yourself, JP.
We'll be back with more right after this. We'll see you then.